Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Always Almost There Day After Show Live. It's exciting to be here because 24 hours ago, we did not know that this pod was going to happen. And here we are.
The jams
I
were
tweeted about that yesterday.
Yeah, the jams.
I had no idea Goose was going to melt my face yesterday morning when I woke up, and
yeah,
then
the
that's
jams were serious enough that they need proper discussion.
Yes,
everyone's down for a surprise face melt. You know,
it's true. It was great.
Neil, at the Chateau, no less.
Neil was initially skeptical on whether we were going to need a pod. Like I think I said like, what was it like before Atlas Dogs was even done? And I already said like we're doing a pod tomorrow, and Neil's like
no,
wait a minute, like,
I'm podding alone.
And then
so we've had jams at T's house.
You're just going right into it
at the Solarium.
Yes.
Now at the Chateau is the next
Le Chateau.
Le Chateau. And then are the next set of unannounced jams going to be on the veranda?
Ooh. That's a good question. What is the next venue? Where do we go from the Chateau? Give us some guesses.
Hey, that rhymed
here.
Nice one.
Well, and before we dive into the show, we do want to let everybody know that over the weekend, if anybody saw on Twitter, we did record an episode talking about the wrap up of the Jam of the Year bracket that finished last week, and projecting ahead to what we were expecting from spring tour and the upcoming dates with Cotter. So some of the questions that you will hear us speculating about on the pod have been answered.
Yes.
But there's still some great discussion there. And our most digestible recorded episode of all time. What is it, like 80 minutes?
Yep.
It's going to come in at about 80 minutes when I'm done editing, which
I
was in the middle of, and I was going to finish last night, and then last night happened.
Yeah.
Focus on brevity.
Yeah. So it's Goose's fault that the pod isn't out yet.
Yeah. Well, fair.
Well, and the good news is that it's short enough that our listeners can listen to it in one shot.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so adjusted to 3-4 hour pods.
3 sections. We got to break them up.
But you can still digest it in as many sections as you want.
Yeah, or listen again.
That's the beauty of the pod. Well, speaking of listening again, I have listened to this multiple times, and I'm glad that Chateau Session has made its way onto Nugs and Bandcamp. We saw those 2 Gemini jams with Cotter, the first couple ones that are only on YouTube as of right now still. So I, not expecting these to hit Nugs so quickly, but very excited about that. So we have great audio of them. But wow, I don't know. What was the poll that they put up on YouTube before the premiere started last night?
What they thought.
What do you think it's going to eat? What do you think it's going to be?
Jams, songs.
Jeff on guitar.
Jeff on guitar, and then
3 hours of jams.
3 hours.
3 hours of jams.
Honestly,
it was just 2 hours, but with songs.
I'm a little bit disappointed that it wasn't an experimental polka album
with Weird Al. As was that Vickers that made that?
Yeah.
Get ready for the sit-in of the century. No, and I think before we go on, putting it on to Nugs, Bandcamp, Spotify, of course, is another outlet, but with this being more of a rehearsal vibe, I can see it not getting there. But I think of course, that just increases the audience that it's going to hit. I mean, there's people that, whether it's the YouTube aspect of video, you can't close your phone unless you have the premium, and I think that just helps people to be able to listen to it while walking, or listen to it in the car a little easier, of course. And hopefully it just gets more exposure to people before, obviously exposes more people, before these shows start in May.
And we were talking too about the viewer count on the live stuff last night, how it just kept creeping up and creeping up.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
that was really cool to see.
Yeah, I think once it was kind of clear what they were doing, and once they're 30 minutes into the Born, with just playing incredible music, more people are going to jump in because some people, like I know, Brian Brickman, for example, we were like, you have to turn it on right now.
You must listen to this now.
No, he was like, I'm having dinner with my family. We were like, turn on the premiere. Like, yeah, you got to put it on. So it was good. Ryan Molnar says, Coach said that 25,000 people tuned in last night. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Pretty good telly. Niche. I feel like that joke is getting more and more niche as time goes on.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate. But let's dive in here. We start off dogging it. Little Atlas dogs still searching for the jam. Still searching for the jam.
Yeah, but is that who knows?
But I'm saying the one thing that was very apparent from the jump is, first of all, we're hearing songs at the Chateau, which is amazing. And second of all, Cotter's swing. Cotter's swing in his playing. That's the big difference in Atlas dogs here. There was a good checklist, good points made somewhere on the internet today where it was like, importantly, Goose still sounds like Goose. Yes. That I think that there were some people who were maybe a little bit worried, like on the songs, how different is it going to sound?
Same, but different is kind of like I said, like, you got the similar drum beat with some different flavors. So, but I sort of pointed to just even listening. I did watch that one. It's like you can just tell they're stoked, excited. It's true. We got a dog in the house. And it was wonderful. I thought, like, just to kind of the first song, you're like, oh, all right, it is going to be a song. This is fun.
Yeah, Neil.
Yeah, that one generated all kinds of questions, right? The second they jumped into Atlas dogs, it was just like, oh, are we getting like a whole show here? I immediately thought of T's house, like all of a sudden, like we're getting T's house and we're gonna have a whole show of music, and then what happened later I think was actually better than that. But still, it was just a whole range of emotions. What I expected last night to be was like 20 minutes of a jam and then it was over, and obviously it was a whole lot more than that. But pretty cool to lead in with that Atlas dogs. It was a little bit of a tease, right? It made you question what you were going to get. And then they gave you something completely different directly after. So.
Right. Or, with the Atlas dogs, like, are they going to give us an hour of just songs? Right. We've had
less
now
jamming,
at this
more
point,
songs. Yep.
Before last night, I think we had a combined 4 hours of jamming almost between TED tapes and the Gemini jams. And so it was, like, are we just going to get straight songs this time? Which I would have been okay with, if they were going to just do a set of, songy stuff, giving us a window and how Cotter's going to sound there. But, when they started Born, I still wasn't sure because, Born has a tendency to not jam sometimes. But then they played it for 32 minutes. And
so Ryan, your point there, again, tune into the episode Always Almost There that hasn't come out yet. But we got into this a little bit, like what's going to happen with Cotter. Are they going to play a bunch of songs and just get a bunch of songs and kind of lay off the jamming? What's the stable number of songs that Cotter's going to learn in order to get out on tour? And it seems like they are going to kind of key into the jams and let those jams breathe in order to give him a little bit of room to learn the catalog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he doesn't sound hesitant or new to these songs.
Not at all.
So much confidence in his playing. Like I noticed he's got a little iPad just to his left. Obviously makes sense. I'm curious as a drummer what kind of cues he puts on there. Maybe he has his own system. But he sounds so confident on all these songs. And another thing that's cool, at the beginning of Born, and I posted a clip about this earlier. But you see him and Jeff kind of look at each other to get a feel for, locking in on the double drums in the song portion of that, which is cool, because obviously that is probably the most difficult thing to sync up in a setting like that. Making sure you're hitting the snare at the right time, making sure you're hitting the kick at the right time, and staying in sync. So it's cool to, get the visual of the two of them, getting more familiar with each other.
Could the iPad also like help? I mean, tracking BPM, like kind of time, something like that, like sort of getting I didn't see it obviously, so I don't know, but I would think maybe at least like BPMs and stuff like that, and kind of making sure we're within that time signature, of course.
Yeah. Could just be like a really big Candy Crush guy, You know, just you get those breaks
Hitting it while he's
in
playing.
between
you got
songs.
your Candy Crush.
He's playing Words with Friends.
And well, as long as we're talking about the stuff behind the kit,
Yeah.
in Potter's area there is one thing that I noticed, which I think we expected, but was there, and I was hoping for all night long, was Cotter to sing into that mic that was by his kit. So that's a thing that I'm excited about. It's clearly something that they're working on, which we knew they were going to do anyway, because the guy can sing, right?
That's his talk back. He was talking to Coach, telling him it's your turn.
In Words with Friends.
Didn't
Peter
tell us that too? Like on, maybe I'm bringing.
Yeah, no, he did tell us
unreleased.
that.
Okay, yeah, he said, yeah, they're just working on that. Yeah.
Yep.
Four-part harmonies.
Let's dig into this 32-minute Born a little bit here, because there's like a number of sections. You have this initial peak, which is amazing. Peter immediately on the marimba piano here. But it's just the band feels so good. And I want to shout out Peter for the mixing on this Chateau session.
Quick turnaround.
What?
Quick turnaround.
Yeah, well, quick turnaround, and I mean, just so he mixed the audio himself, I think in a more in-depth way than he usually mixes shows. But if you listen to this with headphones on, everybody is so crystal clear. Trevor is incredibly high.
He sounded good all night,
and like just the playing is amazing. But I really recommend everybody listen to it in headphones. You don't get the full Jeff guitar when you're listening on a speaker. You know, it's very well mixed in that kind of setting. So if you are confused at what Jeff was contributing to the jams, you should listen in headphones.
It was more than just face gestures.
Yes. There were some good face gestures though.
Yeah, I think also you see like, and it would come to pass throughout the rest of the sessions, but yeah, Peter like mixing different keys, and like, you know, he kind of like, we release into Born was sort of like synthy floaty, and then like into the vintage. I didn't see the video once again here, but it seemed like it was vibes, and then you kind of get like, you know, we saw him layer more stuff in the jams later, the jam later on, the Triple C jam, but
Triple C.
Yeah. Costume change Chateau jam. But yeah, I thought like what I noticed too was like Trevor and Cotter right here, like, and we saw this again, like they're hitting and linking up really well. We saw that in some of the TED tapes, Gemini, stuff like that. But it was cool to see in the song structures as well. Really working the pocket and the groove together, and just, yeah, it was like nice reserved sort of build to a peak, and then like I really liked the latter half of the Born too, like the last 10-12 minutes of it. Just kind of like slow progression into
well, it felt like that the Born was a very conscious choice for the first jam of this Chateau Session series. You know, we know there's going to be at least one more next week. We don't know if there's two, there could be 4 or 6, like, you know. But that felt like a very conscious choice, where Goose likes to do that, where they'll start with like this big cathartic peak before delving into the more open improvisation. You know, something that comes to mind, similar deals, the Seattle Echo last year. They came out after, you know, the PA issues and everything, and that first, you know, 10 minutes of Echo is just this amazing cathartic peak. It's like, we're here, we're back, we're jamming. And so that's kind of what that felt like in the Born last night. It's like, this is, you know, this is happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they were making a concerted effort, I think, to go to the same space that the Eugene Born went, and to some degree or another, the Louisville Born. Yeah. They wanted to do that same thing again, which is let the rhythm section lock into a groove and then just make some weird sounds over the top of that. They did it again this time, and it just sounded different. And I don't know what I can put my, you know, or how I can put my finger on how it sounded different, but I think Peter and Rick both sounded different last night. I think we're tempted to talk about Cotter when we talk about these jams, but I think we have to talk about how Rick sounded and how Peter sounded. I think they both sounded awesome, and they were doing different things. There were new musical ideas last night, things that my ears have never really heard before. And I thought that was amazing. You know, the funny thing is, I think the cool thing to do right now, or at least like when I'm paying attention to social media, is to go listen to 2019. It seems that everybody's doing it, right? And at least a lot of people that we know. And you listen to like Peter's keyboard playing now and his keyboard playing back then, and it's just dumbfounding how far he's come.
Yeah.
Even late 2019 versus early 2019. You know?
Oh yeah, well I mean
yeah, he was learning on a speed train at that point. Yeah, but agreed. It's like I think the building of more sounds like all at once. It's like, and it's just a greater range he can play too in his notes, I think.
Yeah, he switches between keys really well. He does it at the appropriate times. I think he was doing that last night. And yeah, Jesse. He was doing that in the recording last night that we heard for the first time incredibly well. And it just everything sounded great. There were multiple layers of keys going on in certain parts of these jams. It was something, man.
Yeah,
it was really I love. And then it got even better as we go on. Like
exactly. Well, he had this my favorite Peter sound from last night. You know, we've heard him use that marimba piano sound a lot, especially in the past year. But last night he also had a synth layered underneath it, which gave it there's more of a floatiness, adding an extra layer of texture, and it just feels like there's so much space in the jam, and it could be the way it's mixed, but there just feels like there's so much room in the music. Everything's more fluid. And that part, you had, I don't remember if this was in the Born or if it was in the Chateau jam or the Triple C jam, if you will. But there's one part where Rick, Peter, and Jeff are all linked up on a singular riff, and it's amazing.
Guitar Goose?
Three. We could see 3 Guitar Goose. It is a possibility. I don't know if Jeff's going to play guitar when Peter is also on guitar. But it's cool also to see, we talked a lot about Jeff finding his role in the band with the new drummer, how there's less room for him on percussion in a lot of the music. And it's cool that he's pivoted, first of all, Jeff being the multi-instrumentalist that he is, he can play everything. But he's like, yeah, I can add things on guitar, and it's a very, he's not going to take lead space away from Rick. He's not even going to fill a similar supporting role that Peter does.
He's like a quarter Bobby.
No, and that's by design. He's adding these little chords in, these little accents, these little fills
it just builds the sound too. Yeah.
And I think it sounded great in last night's jams.
And I think that's a great point. I don't think any of us expected, we expected bumps, right? And a lot of us, I think a big reason that we're blown away right now, even still, is because it seemed very seamless. These 5 guys playing together, and we didn't think it was going to come together this quick. And again, this is a little over an hour that we watched of them playing together. Yeah. But holy moly, does that portend positively for the future?
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew Sargent, for shouting out the timestamp of that riff that I was mentioning there around an hour and 24 minutes in during the Chateau Jam. Not sure what that timestamp is during the Chateau Jam, but just go listen to the whole Chateau Jam.
It's good Chateau.
Neil, you had a thing.
Well, I just wanted to say, I want to know what kind of guitar Jeff was playing. It looked like a Tele, had a Tele headstock, kind of also looked like a Tele, but I don't think it was a Telecaster. So
there were two different guitars used. Yep, balloons. 2 different guitars used by Jeff last night.
Oh, really? I wasn't watching the video the whole time. Just the Tele looking guitar is the one that I saw. But,
yeah, it was great. And
I
then
question whether we're going to see that again. I think that was just an informal setting. That was
you mean with Jeff?
Kind of a jam. Yeah, with Jeff.
I feel like they're not going to do something like that in a video or in a session that carries so much weight without that coming to the stage. I think if he was just going to fuck around on guitar, it would be in a rehearsal or practice where they weren't going to release it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe we'll see when they play next. When they're at Soulshine, if there's a guitar on stage for him to use. I mean, it'll be interesting.
Exactly. And you mentioned Rick's tone as well. I initially thought he was just playing through the Fender amp, but I later noticed he had his Mesa Boogie in like a rack mount next to it, and it seemed like he was playing the Mesa amp into the Fender and using the Fender as like a cabinet of sorts. Trey used to kind of do the reverse of that, I think. I really liked the way Rick's tone sounded last night. A couple of moments also where he at the end of the Born jam where he's like tweaking his pedals and he made a couple of faces. White Crocs. We didn't talk about the white Crocs.
I don't think we need
wearing
to.
the Crocs.
It's green vibes. The show grades up with the Crocs, is what people say. So the white Crocs. But
thank you, Came to Play, for saying this pod sounds like it's on 1.5x. The pod that you hear that will come out later this week is going to sound like it's slowed down.
We're just so efficient.
Parts.
We're so efficient.
Whenever
Ryan's been talking at 1.5x since about 8 p.m. last night, and he has not stopped. That is a fact.
I thought so. The Triple C, as I said, costume change Chateau Jam, because that's where they drop out of the Bourne, they go into, it turns to night. Rick's got a hoodie, but I thought it's like they pick up the Bourne kind of nicely. That's that same vibe in some sense. Like you said, it's from a stop though, hard stop. So I thought though they carried some of those similar sounds, and then you kind of have just great exchanges, and then I think it really, like you said, maybe it's sort of that 124, but from like 20 on the Nugs track, that's where you start to see that preview section that they released of Peter, like you said, Ryan, synth, piano, vibe, like all three just like building these sounds, and we had kind of touched on earlier, and I think like Rick kind of takes a step back, allows Peter to push a little harder, and just I really like they sort of coming out of that layering, you get like Peter, Trevor, and Cotter all kind of locking up on that marimba, sort of like downbeat. They all sort of are like hitting the same sort of sound, and Rick kind of pulls back a little bit before just taking over again and bringing it into one more.
Layers and textures, no edibles necessary.
Nope. Not
at all.
And then a good segue too. I mean, that
was like
cool. A slide, but
that was cool how they put in the YouTube chat. For those who may have missed it, there was a little bit of interactive stuff going on during the premiere last night, which I assume will return next week when we see it again. So you should definitely hop on that. But they ran a poll. It was like, what song do you think this jam is going into? And the options were Thatch, Dripfield, Wisteria, and This Old Sea. I thought it was going to be Thatch for a while. I think that the first half of that jam and that big peak they hit especially, I felt could have just gone, landed right into Thatch. And I really hope that we see Thatch.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see how they do it
next week. But the landing in Wisteria was great. I'm glad that they didn't, stop jamming after that first peak and kept pushing and kept going. And then the Wisteria was great. I was not a fan of the auto tune on Wisteria personally.
Get out of here.
I like it.
When I went back to listen this morning, I forgot that he did that, and it took me very much by surprise.
Why do you hate 2019?
I don't. I like
2019
the
vibes were going on hard last night.
Yeah, I know. I like the auto tune on certain songs. I think Wisteria, it was a good decision to stop using the auto tune on Wisteria after 2019.
Well, Ryan, first of all, it's a vocal harmonizer.
Sorry.
And second of all, it sounded
hard
great.
tune
harmonizer, sorry,
if you will.
I think it sounded good though, because we had situations, of course, in the past where and I know live is much different with Rick needing to, totally with Rick needing to, belt out the lyrics more in those situations in a live setting, and I think maybe at the end of the day, it can't just be like right, if it's harmonizing. What is his voice cracking the whole time? I don't know. I mean, I guess
whatever it was, the auto tune is working again.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's at least important.
And it sounds good. It sounds a lot better than kind of very broken versions of it that have happened over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Where it's
agreed.
It doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound like somebody was like, yes,
creatures, and just
yeah. That is what I wanted to sound like. I'm thinking
Minneapolis
of
22
Minneapolis Dark Horse, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're
saying? The Dark Horse is very broken.
It's still broken. Hell of a jam in that Dark Horse, but oh man, is that vocal harmonizer terrible? It's like somebody didn't plug a cable in all the way or something.
It's almost like a cable. It seems like the way it's cutting in and out. But I thought it sounded cool. It kind of harkens back, and then once they finished the compose section, it's just I feel like that just a good shift. They basically Cotter starts driving the jam a little bit, but it's slow and kind of patient. And just letting it take off. Really pretty. You were saying some comparisons, Neil. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was just stirring the pot last night because why not? But that wisteria really is maybe the best wisteria I've heard since January of 2022.
Wow. Big
I think
takes
that's
from
true.
Neil.
Yeah.
If you include the jam that comes beforehand, right? Like I think you have to do that. But
No, I mean,
Is that San Francisco that you said should eat its heart out last night?
yeah, he did.
yes, I did say that. SF Wisteria is better, I think, for a lot of reasons. But last night was exciting.
I don't know. I don't know if personally I would consider this jam into wisteria. Like, I mean, it is jam into wisteria, but like, I don't know if I'd consider that one thing. First of all, they tracked it differently, so I think it's not an intro jam.
Chateau jam.
No, not an intro jam, but maybe like the last 5-7 minutes of the Chateau.
Sure.
Kind of like
I think the
going
segue,
that way, maybe.
not a full arrow segue.
Yeah.
No, not even
agreed.
close.
It melted.
So
Yeah.
that's why, I mean, the wisteria is phenomenal, for sure. And I love that we got to see kind of all over the map, a little bit of every jamming style. And so I'm curious whether this week was just like the appetizer, we're going to get a little bit of everything. And then like next week is more focused on specific kinds of jamming styles, or we're kind of get a sampling in every volume of the Chateau Sessions.
Sounds like we should tune in.
Yeah, I think maybe we shouldn't miss it.
I think we should. Yeah, I
Probably
thought
a good idea.
I had some notes, like I liked Trevor and Cotter, come out of the composition. Then you get like good descending dark note tones from Rick as Peter brings like major twinkly vibes, and then like
Twinkly vibes.
Twinkly vibes.
I thought the way it sounded like very like, it's like little like each note he hits sort of just makes you feel lighter. And then Peter kind of switches to the piano. You get more of like a driving match with Rick before he brings in vibes. So, right, you're getting like, once again, that progression of synth to piano to vibes, or all of it. I guess I'm not the musician in that respect, but I just thought, it was great. And then they all kind of like slam into the dark space together before kind of finishing. It was great. It was very good.
Yeah. That darkness is what got me all fired up. That's what actually got that wisteria, San Fran wisteria comparison.
Yeah, there's elements.
That was around
cool.
when Neil became sold on doing a pod today, I think.
Contains elements of.
If he got to that point.
But no, I mean, that was different Dark Goose too. I think that's like really important to say. It wasn't just like kind of strumming with like some super overdriven guitars. That's not at all what it was.
It
very
seems like
different.
It seems like they get stuck, like especially this past year. It seems like sometimes they'll get stuck, and so they'll try to get out of it like really quick, right?
Yeah,
and I didn't feel that at all last night. Like I felt like they let it breathe and they were comfortable in that space, and that was awesome to see and hear.
Absolutely. There was no big Rick bail out of a dark section into a peak last night, which was awesome. The only time that we had that big ramp up was when it should happen, like the return to the Madhavan theme in Madhavan. I thought the transition into the beginning of Madhavan was super awesome as well. Double drum action on the song. And I mean, another thing that I talked a little bit about it last night, but this isn't like the super, super polished rehearsal jam. There are a couple of flubs in there. Peter's guitar wasn't ready at the beginning of Wisteria. There were like a couple of very minor missteps in like cues in the jams. And I just love, among all of this incredible improvisation, that they're still releasing it warts and all. This is a very important thing, like to convey, we're here, we're killing it. But
it's a process too.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's a process, and they're willing to share that with us, even if there's a, however minor the flub may be, there's still a flub.
It's not perfect.
Speaking of flubs, and we were just kind of talking about Madhavan. I was saying this last night. That was like the most crisp Madhavan ending I have ever heard Rick play.
Yeah, very good.
It was not a missed note. I mean, he's really at the top of his form. But on this topic, I think this is okay.
Even if he messed up the lyrics,
I thought, because we missed the changed lyric, right?
Yeah.
Again? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know,
they're the ones that changed the
new
lyric,
which is now almost 3 years old.
It's been forgotten like multiple times recently too. I think there was another show.
And they're the ones that changed the lyric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they should
That's
be
not a
remembering
fan-generated lyric. No.
No, it's
Not
like I
us
mean, it's
when
like
we're
it's
like,
like
"Where
Rick
is it?"
forgetting the first line of Mr. Action in Louisville last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just it happens. Or singing, what was it like? Was it Jive 1 and Empress? Which I forget where that happened, or maybe it's the other way around. But like, I mean, this stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
But so you're right. I'm excited
forgot
about the
he did
fact that it was released, warts and all. Like, do we expect Cotter to be perfect in these things? No. Are we excited about the jams? Yes. And he seems to be doing fine there. If he misses a fill, like in the ending of Madavon, don't care.
Yeah,
Fine by
that's
me.
true.
Like,
That'll
he's going to
come.
work it out.
That'll come. Yeah.
A dozen times in 2024. So he's got some chances.
Speaking of this Madavon, the Madhu tears were flowing last night. This
It was
a
bliss.
beautiful,
Diddy-ass.
beautiful Bliss jam. Yeah, little Diddy ass vibe.
Yeah.
For sure.
And synth bliss too. Like a different
So
bliss, different bliss
thank you
vibe.
for mentioning that. I want to bring up, this is a new synthesizer for Peter. It looks like the Prophet 6. This is a sequential OB6 synthesizer, which is similar to the Prophet, but nicer. And for those wondering, thank you.
Nicer.
For those wondering about whether he got a new vintage vibe, he was using Matt Campbell's vintage vibe, which is basically the same keyboard, but just a different color. So.
And then that synth you said is Matt's?
No, so the synth I thought was Matt's,
It's
but
a new
it is
one.
Peter's. Matt has the same
Nice.
one. Peter said he bought one.
He upgraded?
Yeah.
I think maybe that and I made a joke about this the other night listening to the DC 22 show and the Travelers and just like, right, we want more synth. I mean, well, Travelers we want as well, but I thought that, that is a sound maybe that kind of has progressively just decreased, kind of the bending, modulating synth. And we didn't get so much of like the big modulations with it, like with the, the bar or whatever that's called, the roller or something, but
Mod wheel.
the mod wheel. Thank you. Flipping. What was we were saying? With the organ? Knob. Yeah, it's a mod knob. Exactly. It's a mod knob for sure. But I thought that, I throughout just a lot more synths, a lot more like drones and kind of like floating, like droney sort of groans and stuff like that, like both light and dark.
Drones and groans.
Drones and groans. Like
theme of 2024.
I think that once again, we said it makes the sound a little bigger, right? Because you can sort of start that and then work in through the vibes or the piano too. Straight knobbing, baby.
Straight knobbing, he gets it.
Yeah, those textures at the beginning of Madavon, and again, another moment that you need to hear on headphones, because it's going back and forth from left to right throughout that initial section, and it is incredible.
Good stuff.
Yeah, the peak to finish was great too, though. Like you said, it did have the London elements. It kind of had those it's like we've heard this before, but it it was tighter. Rick's
Rick hitting the wah as they went back into Madavon was like he only does that at a peak like that when he's like really feeling it. Like Gooseman's 22 pancakes. Like
oh god, that's so good.
Oh yeah, best jam of the year.
Second best jam of the year, Neil said.
Damn right.
It was a good one. It was a good one.
Well, appreciate the intel on the synths, Ryan. I was joking when I pretended to fall asleep.
That is cool. Yeah.
But I think eventually what's going to happen is Peter's going to be just surrounded by synths, and
I'm okay with it.
Just probably put it like a piece of tape on each one. Like, this is the one I hit during Madavon, and then this is the one I mean, who knows? But at this point, I mean, how many does he have? He's got so many.
Well, he only is. I mean, he's got 2 synthesizers. I would expect the OB6 to be replacing the Prophet.
Yeah, I would think so too. Maybe the sound. Yeah.
So I think by the looks of it, the Prophet is, or the OB6 is going to be on the vibe, and then the Nord synth is going to go on top of the clav. Though that could just be for this studio.
And then organ again over there, like
then you have the organ, and there's room on top of the organ for one more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You never know.
What's it going to be?
Let's bring in more. I mean, or does he face? But with the way he wants to be able to expose himself with guitar.
He can't close the box of keyboards
if he wants to be dead on. So yeah.
So before we wrap up, anyone else have any of you guys have anything else you want to add here?
I had one, the best part, I think, because I finished this just recently coming back from a walk, but you can't deny hearing them all laugh at the end of Madhuvan and just kind of like just in amazement.
Exhilaration, yeah.
Exhilaration's a great word. Like, yeah, it starts with the excitement. You can tell the band's excited, the A-Dogs, and obviously this whole afternoon and evening they did.
Dogs.
And then just like Peter and Rick just like geeking out. It's like you can just tell how thrilled they are at how it's going, and like, yeah, like we've all dissected and saying there's gonna be bumps, there's gonna be moments, there's gonna be quote unquote bad, worse shows than others, you know, like that's just gonna happen. I think that's gonna be the growing pains of the transition that's natural with coming into a live setting. So, but it was just like very, you know, exhilarating for myself too, to just hear that excitement. You're just like, oh man, love it.
We back,
optimistic baby. To say the least.
We back, baby.
There we go.
Yeah.
Bring it.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning into our spur of the moment day after show here. We'll be back 1 week from today to talk about Chateau Sessions Part 2. Neil is now thinking we didn't talk about this. But yes, we will be back here for another day after show next Tuesday at time TBD. Andrew Sargent, this is a good question. The upcoming Frasco pod, Andy Frasco did announce in the most recent episode that he is going to be interviewing. He said Goose, then they kind of said Rick and Peter. So at least Rick and Peter. And it's going to be like kind of a tell-all, I guess.
Again, for the third time. That's
for the third time
with Frasco.
Yeah, the third interview with Frasco.
The third interview with Frasco. I mean, if you go back and you listen to those World Saving Podcast interviews, like the first one gets like incredibly deep. Then the second one begins with like Dave DiCiani saying like, "Frasco, don't fuck it up." It's really good.
The third one's just going to open with shots.
Yeah, who knows?
So
I'm looking forward to that just for that reason.
So that's coming up. We're going to get a little more of a look into what's been going on the last couple of months. With the drummer change and everything. So very much looking forward to hearing that. Frasco and Nick are incredible interviewers. And they are definitely the right people to be doing this kind of interview
within the industry too.
We have another pod coming out, don't we? Soon.
We mentioned that
pod.
Later this week. There will be a pod.
So much AAT
coming your way. Yeah, there's a lot of AAT content
in your face
for the off season. But yeah, so by the end of the week, it will be out. Depending on if Neil finishes editing or not.
He's done.
Yeah. Maybe tonight.
Maybe Chateau.
And I mean that with love. It'll be out. It'll be out by the end of the week, and then we'll be back here next Tuesday to talk about more Chateau jams. So everybody,
it's going to be Tuesday versus just next week, right?
Well, they said Monday at 8 p.m.
Les Chateau.
Oh, did they? They
did Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Goose YouTube channel. Be there or don't. But if you don't, you'll be missing out. So. Without further ado, we'll let you guys go. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesdays. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you guys next Tuesday.